Linux.com. It's a very important domain. Very, very important domain. Lots of people want to explore the operating system known as GNU Linux. Most people call it just Linux. And they go to sites like linux.org or linux.com. Some of them know better. They'll go to a site like LWN, which is Linux Weekly News, and they will explore what is this thing about. I heard about Linux, I want to try this thing. So linux.com is a very, very important domain, and that's the website. As you can see here, I'm talking about privacy policy. When you see these and they say we care about your privacy, what they mean to say we don't care about your privacy, but we're lying to you, so press OK anyway. So I'll accept that. That's linux.com. It's a very ugly website. It wasn't always ugly, and the story of it is actually quite sad. So last year, in April, we in TechRights were the first to break the story of all the staff being sacked, and that was in 2019. There was no COVID, and financial crisis was already like 11 years behind, and they decided to fire all the workers, including the editor. And for 2 months there was not a word in the site. I spoke to a person from there, so I found out and I did some investigation. I found that they basically sacked all the stuff. Then they changed the website, and it's absolutely horrific. And what I'll show today is just one of many scandals associated with what happened to the site. I wrote about this site at least 20 times in the past 2 years. I wrote about the Linux Foundation hundreds of times over the years. They have an annual report that you can see here. Now, I didn't prepare this video, didn't script it, I'm just doing it because I've written enough about it. I can just explain. You can see there's not many views here. Nobody reads Linux.com almost. There used to be lots of readers, but the site is so appalling that if you want news, you wouldn't come here. This is the report from the Linux Foundation. Now, you probably wouldn't be surprised that if you check the report and you check who wrote the annual report for Linux, it's always some external agency using Macs and Adobe stuff, which is proprietary. And this is not suitable. It's not really. It's basically saying, use Linux, but we don't really use Linux ourselves, and we've written a great deal about that. But putting that aside, the site Linux.com was first registered, I believe, in the 90s. It used to be at some stage owned by various entities. I've studied the whole archive in the Internet Archive to see who owned it and what it looked like over the years. At some stage it was OSDN, which made it a very, very nice news site, and they paid good salaries to good writers who understand the topic, Linux or GNU Linux, free software, open source, whatever you want to call it. And now there is almost no staff here. It's just the Linux Foundation was given this website. They sacked all the staff for no good reason. And what I found today, if you look at the RSS feed, and I'm going to attach a couple of images next to the video, what you will find is they're now selling links to the site. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of articles here with categories. It's really rudimentary. It used to be a beautiful website. Over the years they changed the design, and some of the links are literally paid for now. And who gets paid? The Linux Foundation. And and how do you buy the links? You basically pay the Linux Foundation. So they're basically selling links in the site. If you're a wealthy corporation and you want in this website to push some agenda of yours, this one article that you see right here, this is actually a project of the Linux Foundation. It used to be more of a Citrix thing. They published this earlier today. Not so many views, not surprising, because the website doesn't have anything to offer. It's just a marketing website. Further down, if you script the whole scripted thing, you will find that this is a person who is working on the Zen project, which is the last project, by the way, of the Linux Foundation to use the GPL license. They don't seem to like the GPL license. The Zen project was the last one. So this is just marketing. It's not actually journalism. They fired all the journalism they had. They had Jack Wallen and they had Carla Schroeder, a whole bunch of good people, very good people who would rather work and be paid to still do journalism about Linux. So it's such a tragedy that they took a perfectly good site that lots of people used to introduce themselves to Linux. They had a guy called Swapnil Bhartiya working for them for a few months, turning the website into a complete disarray of Microsoft propaganda sometimes, and he still runs his website tfir.io, which is full of marketing. He and a person called Monica are just posting all sorts of Microsoft and Cisco stuff in exchange for money, and they don't even describe themselves as journalism. They literally describe themselves as marketing people. And it's just ridiculous. It's a laughing stock of a site, and that's what they turned Linux.com into. And my wife agrees with me that this site that she used to like, Linux.com, is just turning into a complete nonsense. And as soon as she sees it in RSS feed, she just skips it because she knows it doesn't have any value in it, and it's not going to teach her anything of value. This is a prediction. I saw this one yesterday, and this is one of the guys who works for the Linux Foundation, and I'm trying to talk about more recent issues for obvious reasons. I don't want to cover all the things we've covered before, and there's a wiki page. So this guy works in one of the top positions in the Linux Foundation. He's a very technical guy. I don't have any. He's actually one of the people I least dislike in the Linux Foundation because he's at least a professional. If you scroll down, look at this. What did I miss? I would love to have your comments on Microsoft LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm going to open a Microsoft account now, and I'm going to go to LinkedIn with my Microsoft account to talk to a guy from the Linux Foundation. It's barely even the exception, you know. These people have outsourced almost all the recent projects to Microsoft, to GitHub. GitHub is proprietary software. So they talk about the values of open networking and open edge. Look, open. They don't talk about free or free software. They don't care about freedom. Open. It's all open washing. And as soon as they give them a project, they give it over to Microsoft in a proprietary software monopoly. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense to me. And nobody else should tolerate that, to be honest.